What's going on, guys? This is the 5 Year Pass podcast with me, Suddy. This is Shyam bringing you the preview for the United Leeds game this Sunday. Saturday is the first game of the season, as in the first game of the round, first game of the season. It's going to be a cracker, man. We're here to preview Leeds. We're trying to push towards more interesting sides rather than watching just United, just Liverpool, just Arsenal. I think Leeds have a chance this season to push on to become a really big. They're a big club, big history, but instead becoming a modern day footballing giant from the lows that they had back in the early 2000s. What better way than to start against Man United, man?
Yeah, it's, to be honest, it's probably the fixture of the round. And it's funny to say this as United fans, but we are deliberately keeping an eye on Leeds just because I think that the story is very interesting. We just want to and see how far they go in terms of they're one of the clubs that I think has the best chance of sort of breaking that sort of established top order. They got good owners. They got a great coach. The players are really buying into what's going on at the football club. So they're very interesting to watch. United to the Leeds fans' allegiances aside.
I want to talk through the pattern in which we've talked about United's season last year. I think everyone has. It's a bit boring, to be honest. We want to hear about it again, how they petered out, and they lost a couple of semi-finals and finals. Talk me through Leeds' last season and how they went, especially post-February.
They did struggle a bit at the beginning. It was not so much from playing badly. They had quite a hard draw to start off with. I think they played Liverpool on the first day of the season and nearly beat them. 4-3. They lost at Anfield. Yeah. So they built some really significant momentum. They had sort of very high peaks and sort of low troughs. They did struggle a bit through the season. If you look at sort of the minutes played, there was a lot of rotation through their centre backs. Their best centre back, particularly if you read all the Leeds sort of fan boards and that sort of thing, is Diego Llorente. So he came into the team about late Feb 23rd. They, from that point in time, they actually had the second best record in the league behind Liverpool, who had an amazing finish to the season. Right? Yeah, and Leeds won their last 4 games as well. So they finished the season quite strongly. It's interesting because you wouldn't back a promoted side to get 18 wins in their first season up. But they had 15 losses as well. So it'd be interesting. If you look at sort of Liverpool and Chelsea, they had about 9 losses. They probably underperformed a bit last season, those two teams. If Leeds could somehow keep it at about 8 or 9 losses, how many of those 6 or 7 losses can they turn into draws? Can they turn into wins? Yeah. And that's going to determine how high they push up the ladder this season.
We said many times last season, they're very much a controlled chaos thing. And, proving right, the low, like kind of shallow lows, but extremely high highs. It was all exciting.
Bielsa is absolutely slaughtering them in preseason. They played 7 preseason friendlies, and they play murder ball in the morning, and then they play Ajax in the evening. They lost 4-0 to Ajax, but clearly the results are not an issue in the sense that this is a group of players who play together for a long time, and they're really being pushed to their physical limit. So that type of training would have changed, I think, this week, just with United coming up. They are a team that will benefit from, 1, not having European football, and 2, what happened in the early part of last season is that part of the season was very condensed with a lot of midweek games. That won't happen so much this season. The season was a month shorter than normal. So you had 4 or 5 extra midweek games that teams were sort of sandwiching. In Tottenham, I think, played 2 midweek games 1 week. The end of the season kind of stretched out a bit because they had to put the European weeks in, the midweek games. And Leeds did better at that point in time. So they're clearly being primed to really go hard. How they start's very important, though, because they got United and Liverpool in their first 4 games. Yeah, so Firpo, look, I think with Firpo, there's a lot of talk about rating Barcelona and getting some of their players. Only 2 teams have done it. PSG did it with the Argentine guy, whatever his name is, and then Firpo as well has gone to Leeds. So they've been able to get that player. And I was not a big fan of Alioski last season. I think he looked out of his depth a bit. They've moved him on, and they've managed to get Firpo in. I think that he's strong, he's fast, he's very athletic. He's very much a modern day fullback. He's a bit he's physically quite strong as well. When you look at a lot of fullbacks nowadays, they're sort of a bit lanky, more sort of running. While Diogo Dalot from United, that sort of tallish, lankyish type guy. Firpo's strong, man. He'd be a very good pickup.
Yeah, Firpo said today.
They do have a bit of lack of depth in that spot because there is there is noise about him not actually being able to play. He's doubtful with an injury, so even if he plays, he may not be at 100%. So they may have to bring in Stuart Dallas in at left back. And there's a lot of messaging on the Leeds fan boards. They're not happy about Stuart Dallas being left back. Not that he's a bad player, but it's kind of like they'd rather have him in the midfield, frankly. And with United potentially playing Jadon Sancho on the right wing, that Firpo-Sancho matchup, if it happened, would be a great side. I think it'd be a great challenge for both of them.
Could be a tasty one for years to come. Firpo actually said today, I was reading about him and watching videos. He said he's never had a coach like Bielsa is coming out and said we get videos, daily critiques, daily videos about ourselves. We get kind of emailed in. The last manager to do that was Van Gaal, and it wasn't accepted at United. But apparently, this guy is getting critiqued on his style. But when you're 18 or 19, however old he is, you accept that, you welcome that kind of critique, especially if it's so personalized. Let's go to United. We've talked a lot about Leeds for change, which is great. Let's talk about United for a bit. They have a lot of team news. Obviously, Sancho and Varane are in. I think we talked about this, and we'll get to that in a second, but you think Sancho might be on the bench. Varane probably won't play, given that he's just come out of quarantine. He's probably now conditioned. Dean Henderson out with long COVID. Jesse Lingard with COVID. Eric Bailly, Amad Diallo, both in the Olympics, so probably not going to be considered for selection. Rash and Alex Telles, both injured. Martial's back. Dan James is probably going to start. Lots and lots of news. So talk us through.
Partridge in a pear tree, mate. Yeah, that's a. Yeah, when your first team squad has 37 players, like United does, like 25 is a lot, and they've got 37 players. Part of that is guys coming from the youth squad, like guys like Malanga and Diallo that weren't there last year. Obviously, the two big names. Varane and Sancho, big signings. I don't think they'll have much of a role in this game. United, funnily enough, for all of that noise, the one player that they'll probably miss in this game is Marcus Rashford. I think he's the one where he'll be out with his surgery. The rest of the players are all quite familiar with each other. I think Lindelof will start. I think they'll probably put James or Greenwood on the right wing. And maybe one of them, maybe James goes left and Greenwood goes right. I'm not sure, with Cavani up front. They're talking about Martial. I think he has to earn his dues back.
Your face.
I don't know. Like he had a good season, but he doesn't quite seem a 9. He doesn't quite seem an 11. So he has to figure out what his future is. If he wants to challenge Marcus Rashford, fine. If he wants to challenge Cavani, fine. But he needs to figure that out himself. He seems to be a bit indecisive. The other thing as well will be, in the last game they had at Old Trafford, they played that McFred combination. McFred is a two guy package. So I don't think they'll go that way. I think that they're trying to sort of create that sort of Pogba or Van der Beek playing the freer number 8 with a 6 locked in. I think they want to go that way, which is interesting because McTominay broke up in that game last year. But I think that you can't count on a guy scoring 2 goals in the first 3 minutes of every game that he plays. Even if it's Cristiano. But I feel like if they do that, Matic will probably play. I'd be interested to see over the course of the season for United how they go with James Garner. It'll be interesting to see if they feel that he could be that solution at number 6. They've given Greenwood chances and they've built a team around him coming into that 9 slot. It'll be interesting to see if they try and give Garner those chances over the course of the season. It's
a tough thing though, Shyam, because mistakes that Greenwood make, goes out for a corner, goes out for a goal kick, goes out for mistakes at number 6, goes out for a goal. It's a tough thing. I want to pivot.
That space right in front of the centre backs, that's the most, every manager will tell you that's the most important space in the field. So it's a tough thing. He'll start in the cups and have to prove himself. But I'd like to see him get that chance. If they may send him on loan, fine. But if they keep him, they need to come up with a plan like they did with Greenwood and try and integrate him in and give him the chances that he needs.
I want to just focus on one little point that you made in the show notes here. So 2 teams conceded a total of 29 goals from set pieces. There is a certain Luke Shaw-Maguire connection that's been going on with the Euros and towards the end of last season and the preseason. United might be getting a bit better at set pieces from free kicks as well. Could be a certain avenue for United to get goals.
They've got a set piece coach now, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. You're right. It was funny watching the beginning of last season. Shaw and Maguire did not really trust each other at all. And
the Spurs game was kind of the lowest point.
Maguire just sort of defended like Shaw didn't even exist. And it threw him out of position, threw everything out of position, and they were 4-0 down after 25 minutes or 4-1 down. But the funny thing is they seem to have a lot of trust. The way I've seen Shaw talk about Maguire in interviews, and he talks about him like a mate. You know, it's not someone he plays with. He talks about him like a mate. I've not seen that with Maguire. Doesn't mean he hasn't done it. I just haven't seen it. And you can see through that connection that they're really building something. So I think that, you know, that back four will know each other. I'm really hoping for De Gea. He'll get the first chance to cement himself. That goalkeeper spot's up for grabs. There's 3 keepers. I think De Gea will get first shot at that. The fact they bought Heaton to me means they don't trust either De Gea or Henderson. So Henderson getting COVID at this time could have significant consequences on his United career. But that's just the way it goes sometimes. So I'm also interested in how De Gea plays. And Leeds have shown they conceded 15 goals from set pieces last season. So maybe Maguire with a header is a way that United will score, you know, from a corner or from a free kick.
I just have a point to make before we get to the players to watch, but De Gea not playing in the Euros was kind of nice. As a watcher, as a United fan, him getting rest, not putting that pressure that Spain had an immense amount of pressure. They did it well, but I think it was good for him to get a bit of a rest. Although he did travel and train, it's not the same as playing. Obviously.
You can see with Spain, they want a keeper who can use his feet, and De Gea is actually not particularly good with his feet.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get straight to it. Players to watch. You know, we know how the game's going to go. It's going to be very much a testy affair. Both teams trying to get through. In fact, Leeds are probably going to play for a draw. I think United are going to try their best to get a point. It's not going to be a February or December game. It's going to be very much, tactical battles, gaining yards, gaining space. And I don't think there'll be much in it. But tell me who are the players to watch and give me a score.
For United, it's that 8. Whether it's Van der Beek or Pogba, I'm interested in Van der Beek because I want to see him prove himself. And I'm interested in Pogba because I want to see him leave. I've as a United fan, I've had enough of his game. He's playing both sides, trying to look out for himself. I think he needs to look out for someone other than himself. So I hope he plays well and he gets a bid and he goes, frankly. So that position, I think, is very important. And they need to be able to play well enough to take some pressure off Bruno Fernandes. With Leeds, it's interesting because Leeds are kind of in a position here. Do they go and play the way that they played last year? Do they just go and have a go and play that style and take the game on? Or do they try and sit back a bit more? Because at Allen Road, they sat back, but at Old Trafford, they had a go, and they lost Old Trafford quite badly. And particularly with question marks over Calvin Phillips, who we haven't spoken about. I rate Calvin Phillips very highly, but there's a question mark on his fitness. Llorente the same, Firpo the same. Do Leeds have the balls to play that way against United at Old Trafford with that sort of structural problem in terms of those players, who is strategically quite important? Or will they get a bit nervous, which is kind of when United are a side that if they get on top can dominate you as much as they're iffy at times. So it's a really intriguing game because I think the first 5 minutes will tell a lot.
Perfect. Score?
I think United will nick it. I'm only saying that because it's at Old Trafford. I think the fans coming back will add something. These guys are used to playing in front of large numbers of fans. They haven't been for a while, and I think that it's just going to add something to the game, particularly being a derby. The Roses derby, and I think that if it was anywhere else, I'd say 1-1. I think the fans will get United a goal, not a Fergie time goal, but a goal. Yeah.
I think a draw. I think it's going to be 1-1, 0-0. I think I just don't feel the kick that, especially with the new players not playing. I think Ollie's going to experiment a bit. You might see Lenga come on, you might see Ghana come on as well. But I think 0-0, and it's okay. It's the start of the season, the first 3-4 games. If you can get 2 wins and a draw. No, if you get 2 wins and a draw.
Very subjective statement to make.
If you get 2 wins and a draw, it's I know everyone's doing.
They'll both take a draw. They'll both take a draw. I don't know. There's just something that tells me that United might nick it. But if it was a draw, I would not be surprised in the slightest.
Perfect. Any closing thoughts?
No. This one, like I said, this one is to me, it's the game of the round. Very interested to see. And like I said, the first 5-10 minutes are going to give a lot away about how this game will be played. It could be very boring or it could be an absolute cracker.
It's fucking Christmas Day, man. All right. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. My name is Suddy. This is Shyam, gearing in for the first day of the Premier League season. We are the 5-year pass. Keep football simple. And as always,
keep passing, guys. Cheers.